Shopify just made it official. Before hiring anyone new, teams must ask, what would this look like if autonomous AI agents were already on the team? That's straight from the CEO. And it's not a suggestion. AI usage for Shopify is now a baseline expectation.
Yeah. Toby Lutka's memo tells Shopify employees AI is not just a tool, it is now our standard. It is part of your job. So I'm really curious to know what happens when that expectation hits HR, operations, and everyday workflows. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Digital Labor Lab, where we explore the future of work one experiment at a time. I'm Brad Owens.
And I'm Jenny Owens.
So on today's episode, we're going to talk about a memo that could honestly set a completely new precedent. So Shopify's CEO told his teams that AI isn't optional anymore. It's the default. And before he's allowing anyone to grow their headcount, to do anything new, to experiment on something, he says you have to first prototype with AI. So it's a mindset shift, and it's a really strategic one by Shopify.
So the thing from the memo that's making headlines is the mandate to prototype with AI, but I think the entire thing is worth backing up and covering just for additional context, because there is a lot here to dig into.
Yeah, so there were kind of two main things that I saw as takeaways from this. First is that AI is no longer optional at Shopify. The way that he goes into explaining this is he calls it's a tool of all trades. Not like tool of the trade, it's tool of all trades. And learning how to use it effectively was a foundational expectation of everyone that's at Shopify. And that included executives. He called that out specifically, which I liked. Now, he also talked about reflexive AI. So AI should be your first reflex. You should turn to AI first. So he called it the reflexive AI usage, as how we defined it, I guess, was AI must be integrated by default into work. It's not just a helper. It's not a multiplier of productivity. It has to be integrated into your work. And he lays this out. So I'm going to read an actual quote from this. It says, I don't think it's feasible to opt out of learning the skill of applying AI in your craft. It's a big deal for HR too, because now we've just completely laid out that AI is going to be part of your performance plan and how you're measured. It's a complete change.
Yeah, so it's a big deal for everybody, right? And it's interesting because he coaches this as a strategic thing. So he says that stagnation is slow motion failure, which is evocative, like that's a cute turn of phrase. But what it really means for a Shopify employee is that if you're not actively upskilling with AI, you're automatically sliding. It's the Red Queen effect, where you have to run faster and faster just to stay in the same place. That creates a whole new filter and a whole new stress level on performance evaluations for both individuals and the business. And that's been made explicit in this memo that hit all sorts of press, as well as the CEO released the actual text of the memo verbatim on Twitter, or sorry, we're supposed to call it X now, released it on X after he heard that it was leaked and was just like, well, here it is. That's kind of a baller move. I kind of like that.
I'm glad that we were able to see it.
Me too.
Honestly, I think it's going to help a whole lot of people to understand how the top companies are thinking about this. And to get a little bit more into that third point there about this being part of performance reviews, he said specifically AI questions and AI usage questions are going to be added to performance reviews and peer review forms. We're going to really start being measured at Shopify as our usage of AI and how we're putting that to use in our world, in our role. I mean, that's not something that I've heard anyone doing. That's pretty incredible.
It's really interesting too, because it's basic management, right? If you don't measure it, then you can't manage it. So we're just going to say, okay, this is important enough to us that we're going to include it in our performance evaluations. But that also means that HR has to define, what does good AI use look like? And then every single part of Shopify's business is going to have to talk about, okay, is it results? Are we giving people time to experiment? Are we giving them points for selecting the right tool, right? One of the things that he calls out in the memo as well is that exploration is really encouraged, and he calls out tools by name like Copilot and Claude, and then he puts this emphasis on peer learning. And I just want to drop a pin in that because we're going to come back to that. It's really interesting to think about, what does this mean? Because as you called out, Brad, this is company wide. Everyone means everyone is exactly what he said in the memo. And it really lays out a clear strategic directive for Shopify, making sure that they're continuing to build the best tools for entrepreneurship in a world where AI is universally available. You have to assume your customers are using it, so you should be using it yourself. So the really interesting thing is that this isn't just a policy, right? It's a strategic design for their business as they're moving into this next phase where AI is available everywhere. Shopify is building AI into its workflow culture. That's really important. He also requires teams to explore AI in the prototype phase of every new project. I had to look something up. I didn't know what GSD stood for. Apparently, it's getting stuff done, or maybe not stuff. And I think that's really interesting, going back to the point about reflexive AI. So having that be an automatic part of your development process, of your design process, of your prototyping, making sure that you're really thinking about AI every step of the way.
So yes, reflexive AI usage. It's a mindset shift. It's not should we use AI? It's assume you're going to use AI and just figure out how.
Yeah. And the very public nature of this memo creates a lot of pressure on competitor organizations to level up really quickly, right? Like, this is out there. This is in the narrative. It's in the news. And Lucas says that AI is the fastest shift in work that he's seen in his entire career. I don't think he's wrong. But if I'm a Shopify competitor, or if I'm a user of Shopify, I think my question is, how are they going to scale this without chaos?
That's what stood out to me. Oh crap, if I woke up today and I was working at Shopify and had this memo in my inbox, that'd be a big deal for me, because without this clear infrastructure for digital labor in place, things like tools that they already have access to, or a AI usage policy, or shared best practices, or a permission to tinker. I mean, that takes time away from my typical job for me to go and tinker in AI. It's going to get crazy messy. If I were working there, I'd be a little confused on, okay, now what?
Yeah, and that's exactly where I wanted to take our conversation next, right? Is how does this impact our existing employees or people who are looking at jobs at Shopify, right? So if we're encouraging self-directed learning, right, that tinkering, but we're also supposed to be doing peer sharing and peer instruction, we're going to be tracking this on our performance, and we have to make sure that we're documenting how this is impacting our teams. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's time consuming.
Yeah.
I mean, it says in the memo that you have to tinker with AI to learn it. Duh.
Mm-hmm.
He goes on to further say that it's too unlike everything else. So basically, hey, I had a really hard time learning this. You all should probably put some time into learning it too. And yes, it's true. We both have had fun kind of learning AI, and that's why we called it the Digital Labor Lab, because we're all still experimenting with this. It's still a laboratory environment. And what I feel like we're missing here, and that he's going to have to grapple with now, and their leaders at Shopify are going to have to grapple with, is that's time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a lot of time. What happens when your best employee now becomes your AI integration team and starts learning about AI? And that person can now create something that can do that for free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've been in the position where you're trying to build expertise in a new area on the side for free. And I mean, it's tremendously stressful, right? It adds hours to your workday. It means you're shifting lots of gears and trying to maximize every single gap in your schedule. I mean, it's a lot. I just want to pull this out, though, and kind of lampshade it for others who are thinking about digital labor strategy. And I'm going to talk directly to you. If you're doing digital labor strategy, you also need to think about compensation. If AI is now part of the job, then learning it, deploying it, and teaching it to others is labor. That's part of your job description. If it's on your performance evaluation, it's part of your job description, then you should be able to dedicate time in your day to doing it if you're an individual contributor, or to managing it as well if you're a manager. I also think there's a really interesting edge hidden in this. Shopify has been laying people off in chunks for the past couple of years. So they did a 20% reduction in 2023. They lost a few more in customer service, I think, early this year. So that means that their teams are already doing more with less. They're already feeling that pressure of, oh, we just lost somebody. We're not going to backfill that position. And now there's this huge strategic initiative that's landing on people's desks.
It's going to be a culture test. It really is. I mean, coming in and saying, hey, you're doing more with less, also learn this stuff and use this too. I mean, granted, he did say in there, everyone means everyone. So hopefully this would encompass all of the leaders at the organization, the senior execs and everyone else, from interns, I guess, all the way through to the CEO, is what he hopes for. And that's quite bold. It's it's modeled well, I guess, if they do it that way. It could inspire a lot of people to follow in their footsteps as companies, as leaders, but it also raises all of the stakes for those that are still AI hesitant. So anyone out there who's thinking, well, we know AI can probably be used in our business for other things, you've got companies like Shopify that are out there doing this day in and day out. That leaves a lot for you to live up to. So the bottom line here, and why we wanted to bring this up to you all and share this as part of an episode, is Shopify isn't just adopting AI. What we've been talking about is not just adopting AI. This is complete mindset shifts that everyone is probably going to go through here in the near term. They're institutionalizing it at Shopify. Hiring, performance, strategy, it's all being rebuilt around digital labor.
Yeah. And for those of you who like the experimentation part, right, this is a perfect experiment. What happens when you make this your mandate, that AI is integrated in every single component of your business? It's a great case study in how you scale that AI first culture with urgency and alignment with your overall vision. But it's also a real wake-up call, right? Are you ready to grapple with the impacts of this and support the humans building your AI advantage?
So if you're considering this, if this woke you up and made you think, oh goodness, we might want to change some things around here, and you're considering what does AI first actually look like for us, hit us up. Like, Jenny's going through it currently at our organization. I'm going through it currently at our organization. We can help you through this by leading from example.
Yes.
We're literally going through this right now. We are building digital labor readiness toolkits for folks that come to us and say, hey, we're curious about doing this in our business. Maybe we've got some leaders that may see this as, oh, it's got burnout potential written all over it, or maybe want to build a little bit smarter. We're here to help you out.
Yeah. And if you're not quite ready for that toolkit, but you want to hear more, make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And then just let us know, like, if you were going to hire an AI as your first colleague in your organization, who would that be? What role would they fill? I'm so curious to know your very first digital labor resource. What would you want that to be? Until next time, I'm Jenny Owens.
And I'm Brad Owens.
Thanks for joining us on Digital Labor Lab.